Well, as usual, it's going to be things that affect your finance, things that everybody loves to hear about. What are the risks? What's going to cost you money? What's going to cost you your job? And more importantly, what are the industries preparing for the future? Real estate, vehicles, insurance, AI. What are the things that are going to be out in the news in the coming months or years that you can prepare for? As always, we'll talk about artificial intelligence and how it's changing jobs. There's some new inputs for AI in the construction industry. So if you work in construction and you're a labor construction worker, hands-on worker, what is AI doing to take over that job? Everybody thought up until now that it was only taking kind of tech or white collar jobs. We'll also talk about EVs. What's happening with EV prices? Maybe surprised. And is this the time to buy, or is this just a head fake? Also, there's some other expenses happening with vehicle ownership you need to be aware of, where your cost of owning your vehicle, even one you already have, may be going up very, very soon. But first, before we get to all those, we're going to talk about something that we don't cover all that much here. We're going to cover an insurance issue. And people, when they hear insurance, your eyes are going to glaze over. You don't want to hear about it. But this is something that's a little bit different. This is cyber insurance. And it's something where, you don't lose physical damage, like your car is not crash, your house doesn't burn, your business doesn't collapse. This has to do with a virtual cyber event where your computers are hacked, whether you're a company or an individual. Then you might think, well, how's that going to affect me? Well, think of all the things you did today that have to do with access to records on your computer, your Google Drive, your Dropbox, your Apple Cloud, any of those things for your personal or business activities. What if you couldn't do those things? How much would that have cost you today? How much damage would that be? What if your entire Google Cloud was wiped out? What if your Dropbox was emptied? What if your phone data was hacked and captured by an outside party? Would that be an emergency? Well, yeah, it would. And that's where cyber coverage comes in. And even this day and age, knowing that there's a demand side problem. What does that mean? That means nobody wants to buy it. That means nobody wants it. Nobody sees the value. When it starts to become more common, these events, or required, it'll become common. Just like, would you buy insurance on your car if you didn't have to? If the state didn't require you to buy insurance, would you buy it? If your mortgage company didn't require you to have insurance on your house, would you have insurance? I don't know. Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. But the risk of a cyber loss to you as a business or as a person is higher than any of those other losses. So it's something that's becoming more considered or prevalent. Should you get it? That's not really a decision we make, but just be aware of it. Do some research on those kind of things. Now, the big subject that everybody loves to hear about and talk about and have opinions about is AI, artificial intelligence. General statement, it's changing the world and your business. It was once just a speculative fiction. 2001 Space Odyssey, that movie was from the 60s. It's 50 something, almost 60 years ago. AI is now a conversation topic at the dinner table. Is it frightening? Is it helpful? It's happening very quickly. Fast forward 60 years, the science around this has continued to advance, and storage capacity is cheap. Almost any company can hire AI right now. It's in the business world, right? Chatbots are probably the one thing you're most familiar with. You see it when you call up companies. You don't get an actual human anymore. You get a chatbot. You also, as an employee, might have an effect where maybe it's starting to encroach on your job, right? It's in marketing. It's in research and development. It's in security. Of course, it's in IT. What could go wrong? Short answer, a lot. Answers that computers come up with aren't always correct. These AI programs can do hallucinations, which basically means that the AI creates entirely different information than the correct information. The big risk is that people generally accept output from computers as accurate. Look, if somebody told you a fact or told you something to do, if it's a human, you might double check it. You might say, well, let me just make sure that's right. If a computer tells it to you, sometimes you're going to just take it as gospel. So that's one of the dangers. Here's another danger. Artificial intelligence is taking compact machines to a new level. So instead of having an operator run an excavator, a loader, a skid steer, the robots are coming. Bobcat's Rogue X. Bobcat, one of the largest skid steer makers. So it's not just white collar jobs. It's jobs that have to do with manual, hands-on labor, skilled trades. Transformative tech trends of 23, AI coming to construction site near you. I'll bet if you have anything to do with any kind of hands-on job, you have an opinion about this. You have something to say about this. Go ahead and say it. Put it in the comments below. Tell us what you think about AI driving forklifts. Is that a good idea? Maybe you think it is. Maybe you think it'll help safety. Maybe you think it'll help productivity. You have to have an idea about it. So now we're going to jump to our other favorite subject, which is EVs. What's happening with EVs? Well, kind of a mixed bag. Used EV prices have dropped, so you might be able to get a deal, but maybe not. It's not a consumer-friendly market. Used electric vehicles fell by 30% in the last year. That's a big deal. Prices are still relatively high. It's not consumer-friendly. Well, the question is it going to go any lower? If they already dropped 30%, how much more can they drop? Nobody knows, right? But one of the questions that comes up is used car prices are dropping, but real estate prices are going up. And we'll talk about real estate here in a minute. So the question is, why, when there's a recession or inflation or people don't have as much money, do house prices go up when car prices go down? Well, there's a big difference between houses and cars. The biggest difference is the manufacturing velocity. They build cars in factories thousands a day. The factory churns one out. Every 5 minutes, another car comes out the other end of the assembly line. They can build as many cars as they want. Houses are not the same thing. Houses, first of all, you need the land to put it on. You can't just build a house anywhere. They have mobile homes and manufactured homes, but you still need land to put it on. Land is a finite thing. Sure, there's a lot of empty land. It's not like we're completely crowded. There's a lot of empty land. But in areas where people want to live, a lot of the land is taken up. And even where it's available, you can't just slap a house anywhere. First of all, it has to be approved by zoning. You can't put a house in a commercial area. You can't put it in a protected area. You have to have zoning for it. Second of all, you have to get approvals for that project, whether it's a subdivision or a single house. You have to get approvals. Those both take time. The other thing is the site needs what's called site work. It's usually excavation. You have to grade it, clear it, flatten it out. You have to dig in pathways for utilities. You know, your water pipe that goes to the road, you have to cut that in. Your sewer pipe that goes to the road, your electrical trenches, right? All the utilities have to be cut in. All that site work doesn't happen overnight. It's a very labor-intensive process, although maybe they could use robots according to what we just saw. So you can't just magically build a house whenever you want. You have to have all that site work done in advance before you swing a hammer. And that takes lead time. And that lead time is something that can't be instantly ramped up or down. So building a house takes time. Plus, how the house on the lot and the car are both similar in that they degrade over time, they depreciate. But a car happens much more quickly. A 5 or 10-year-old car is starting to be what's called old in the tooth, right? It looks old, it's worn out, it's got miles on it. A 5 or 10-year-old house is still a relatively new house. It doesn't degrade anywhere near as fast because it's not moving. It doesn't have as many moving parts. Most of the house is solid, stable, not moving. Yeah, you have mechanicals in your AC, your heating system, and some of your utilities, but most of the house is fixed in place. You have to replace appliances, but those are separate items. Most of the car is in motion. It's dynamic, engine, transmission, driveline. It's flying down the street. It gets water on it. It rusts. So cars depreciate, houses don't, or houses do, but not as fast. Land usually does not depreciate. Usually the land goes up in value because it becomes more valuable. So don't expect when there is inflation or even a recession or even when people don't have as much money that home prices will go down, because it's still a finite market. They're not replaceable. Cars are a little more disposable. In fact, with EVs, they're even going to be more disposable pretty soon, right? I think EVs, as we go, are not going to be cars that people keep for 20, 30 years. I think you're going to find that EVs are like cell phones. After 5 or 6 years, you just throw it away. Maybe you recycle the battery. Most of the car goes away because most of it is disposable. Unlike internal combustion engine cars where the engine itself is durable, EV engines are more disposable. I think we'll see that. So that's why house prices go up, car prices go down. What is another risk of an EV? Well, it's not the first time you've heard about this with our channel. If you've been watching it, you've seen this happen a million times. Fire. New York firefighters call for stronger rules on lithium-ion battery safety. Acknowledges current safety standards aren't enough to prevent deadly fires. The current standards are not enough. Why isn't anybody talking about this? When did this happen? The Consumer Product Safety Commission talks about e-bikes and scooters and cars. There's too much risk from faulty batteries. Manufacturers go around local laws and standards. Really? Why isn't this a thing? Right? These batteries burn very, very hot, and they can expand out to other items in the area. That's why you want to make sure if you're buying, especially a used electric vehicle, that you check out the battery, make sure it's in good condition, make sure it's not damaged. Even minor collisions can jostle the connections in a battery that can make it more susceptible to fire. Certainly, it can make it less of a lifespan, less range, but also more susceptible to fire. What about pricing? The sweet spot for EVs is about $25,000. That's the CEO of Stellantis, which makes Jeep, Ram, Chrysler. Well, $25,000, that would be great if vehicles were $25,000. The average cost of a vehicle right now is $50,000, right? The middle class will be priced out of the EV market if automakers can't absorb production costs. Well, granted, this guy has an agenda. He's talking about labor strikes, raising the price of labor, right? I tell you what's going to happen. Don't take my word for it. If the CEO of Stellantis has a problem with production costs and labor strikes, what do you think he's going to do? Give you a hint. Something we talked about 8 minutes ago. Is it this? Are they going to get more AI to build electric vehicles so they can get it down to 25,000? Which would you rather have? Would you rather be able to buy a $25,000 car or not have AI as a consumer? I'm sure you have some type of an opinion about that. Start writing. Let's hear what your opinion is. We want to know. I think it would be great to have $25,000 cars as long as they were decent cars and usable. Here's another reason why it would be good to have a $25,000 car. The biggest reason is because costs are going up. Car insurance rates are going up. Already went up 17%, another 4% on the way. That's 20-something% of insurance. So whatever your insurance is, imagine it's 20% higher. What is the reason the insurance companies are giving? They're saying it's because of climate change. Okay. You have an opinion about that? Soaring auto repair prices, yeah, That's a thing. Climate change. Is that a reason for rates going up? You tell me. Should it be a reason for price to go up? Or should it not be? I don't know. What is climate change? How does it affect the prices? Maybe there's more losses. Maybe there's more floods. Maybe there's more hail. Maybe there's some connection to that. So if automobile ownership wasn't enough to worry your budget, if you need something else to worry your budget, why not real estate? Good a reason as any to worry about your budget, right? Real estate economists declared the housing recession is over. What does that mean? It means house prices aren't going down. They're going up. Sure, there's a bias. This is the National Association of Realtors economists says the recession is over. Maybe he's just trying to fluff up the market. Who knows? Only time will tell. Pending home sales climbed 0%, but there are now multiple offers on housing. Demand is not being satisfied due to lack of supply. That's why builders are having to hire robots. They can't get helpers or workers or laborers to build houses. They have to hire robots. So the presence of multiple offers saying there's demand, home builders are ramping up production and hiring workers and robots, not just workers. People are used to the 7% rates. They're used to it already. They're already factoring that in. How long is that going to last? Higher rates will weigh on home buyers for years to come. Central banks will keep raising rates. Unemployment will go up, but people still need a house. Can't go without a house, a roof over your head. Whether you rent it, own it, share it, you have to have a house. So there's more people every month, new families being created, new residents, new citizens coming into the country. You need more homes. They can't build them fast enough. That being the case, then there's multiple offers on houses. Housing is probably not going to crash. Whether you want it to or not, wishful thinking or not, it's probably not gonna. Right? It's not what you want to have happen or an opinion. It's what do the numbers say? And you may have a different approach, a different pathway. Tell us how you feel about the housing market future. What do you think housing prices will be in 2025, 2 years from now? You think they'll be higher, lower? Here's what you can do. Pick out 4 or 5 houses in your area, in your neighborhood, on your street, around the corner, just interesting houses, and see what Zillow says they're worth. Make a little spreadsheet, make a list, store it somewhere, save it on your computer, put a calendar notice on your calendar for August 1st, 2025, 2 years from now, and say, look at this list I made and put a link to it and see what those prices are. I'm going to predict, you can put me on record and you can come back to this channel in 2 years, that the prices, the Zillow prices of those houses will be 9% higher than they are today, almost 10%. So if the house is 410,000, it'll probably be 450 in 2 years. It's not going to crash. Interest rates, what will they be? I think the interest rates in 2 years will be about 8. So your financing costs will be 10% higher. Your price will be 10% higher for what it's worth. We'll see how that plays out. As always, let us know what you want to talk about next week. This is our last full long version post for the week. We'll do a couple shorter TikTok videos that you can check out later today. But in the meantime, let us know which of these subjects is most of interest, what you want to talk about more, what your comments are, what do you disagree with, what do you hate us talking about.